guys. We are excited to be back with you. It is November. I'm just like, I know it's November, but I'm just like in shock about how fast this year has gone. Like, people are pulling out holiday decorations and talking about Christmas, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it's going to be here, like, boom.
I'm surprised you haven't pulled out the tree.
I haven't even done fall decorations this year. I know that you think our house always looks like fall.
Yeah, I mean, there's dead twigs on the desk outside, so
there are no pumpkins.
Yeah, there's one outside the door, like the crew picked.
Yes. So I'm just saying, I've been a real slacker.
Little tiny green pumpkin outside.
I've been a real slacker this year for some reason on all of that stuff. I think it has been, we've done so much traveling. And so I think even just getting back into routine and rhythm has been intense. But I'm going to say this out loud for our lovely constituents to hear as well, is that I am prepared to do that this week. So you need to prepare your heart. You need to prepare your heart.
Stay at the office longer.
And you need to be in it to win it. Okay? You need to be in the game with me. And the outside lights too.
I love when the house, like the tree, I love it when it's all like that.
I know you do.
Like the process.
Yes.
But because it's like the closet threw up in the living room. And the couches nothing can be used while this is going up other than a stool. And I mean, not even the dinner table. Everything is filled with something. There's nowhere to sit. This
is a good tie-in to what we're going to talk about.
It is a good time. But yeah, it gets crazy.
It does. I mean, with all things in life, there's the process that's the difficult thing. And we all like the aftermath,
Aftermath is a negative thing.
Why do you think aftermath is a negative thing?
Have you ever heard aftermath used positive?
I just did right now.
But we know what you do. You do random things.
We don't know what we do.
You never hear like aftermath in a positive light.
Okay, ever. What word would you use?
Now
you've got no other word in your head.
The summit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody loves the summit. Okay. No, we are a week now back from, has it been a week? Not even a week yet. No.
Well, yeah.
We've been back now from speaking in DC. No, we got back on Monday.
Yeah, but we were there last week.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about some things that kind of came up in conversation with us today, and we're also going to just walk through the process of the experience.
Like, also, I mean, the church, NCC is amazing.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. So like welcoming, like everyone was it was awesome.
National Community Church with Mark Batterson. And so we got to be there on a day that he actually gave out his newest book, Gradually Then Suddenly, which was really cool.
Well, it was super cool. Oh, we weren't expecting that.
No. And it was crazy to you and I. We went to church that morning and listened to the message, and here we had just released our podcast the week before, consistency over intensity, and then we're speaking really intentionally about steps in the right direction and the importance of steps in the right direction or wrong direction. And then we listened to his message on Gradually Then Suddenly. And you and I just looked at each other like several points during this message going, how does God do this?
Yeah, I'm sure that he's promoted the book before that day.
Yeah, this was his last, I think he did a series of Gradually Then Suddenly.
Yeah, and this was the last day. Yeah, so, but I had looked up some clips on Instagram just to kind of get a feel for. We used to go to that church.
Yeah.
When we were up there on Detail.
For a couple months.
I know you know that. I'm talking about to everyone else.
Thank you for clarifying. I'm pretty sure they were wondering, like, why is he telling his wife that? Like, of course, there's all sorts of things we talk about out here that I know.
So, Anyway, we used to go to that church before they were in the building they're in now. And so, I already knew the
style
and kind of how the church went, but I just was like curious, like, hey, we already had our message prepared, but I was just curious, like, how's it going to go? Like, where are we?
Can I wear my jeans and t-shirt?
Yeah. Like, what's the vibe, right? Or do I need to get a suit? Whatever, right? So I was looking up clips, and I was listening to little clips of him preaching, but I wasn't even, I was hearing him, but I didn't know like what he was preaching on, so I was just like, oh, okay, kind of seeing the layout, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. All these things. And so, yeah, we had I wasn't following that he had a new book out. He's written quite a few books, and we have a few of them too, but I wasn't following it. So when we're sitting there in the audience and he's going over, the ending of this series, and I'm like, man, he's saying a lot of the things we're going to say just differently. Mm-hmm.
It was so cool to me how God does that, because he reinforces, and a lot of times you hear in Christian lingo like confirmation, mm-hmm. But I love how God does that, right? Yeah. Where so many times we can hear or even grow up with a message, or you hear from your spouse or whatever, something, right? But we don't take it entirely to heart. And then someone says it again in another way. And it's like, it all ties together. And I just think it's such a beautiful
even like
thing.
In this, we're not really talking about the book today, but it ties in. But even in this book, there was something that stood out to me just recently, because when we went and picked up Gage went to his graduation from YWAM, how the class leader or class mentor, mm-hmm. like the it's Australian or anyway, that the one, do you know what I'm talking mm-hmm. about? I'm horrible with names.
Doesn't matter.
But anyway, he said something. He's like, he quoted the scripture that we don't trust in chariots and horses or horses and chariots. Can't remember which way it goes. Anyway, that hit me really big because, of our ministry. And it was like, basically saying we're made for more like than that. Like we are to walk in this way, and all these things. Like we don't trust in that, mm-hmm. and like in what the world sees, and the this is impossible. This we don't trust in horses and chariots. I love that scripture, and so that like sat with me for months, really, even while preparing for our message and doing all that. And then I'm reading his book, and I'm probably a little bit over halfway. And he says that in there too. Mm. And I was like, oh, there it is.
Confirmation.
Again. Yeah. It just is like always popping up,
Yeah. I just love how God does that. And, when we were preparing for this message, and we've talked about some of these topics before, but I think we dove into it even in a deeper way, that, these small steps that we take, right, they determine the direction we're going to go. And we're taking them, whether we are considering the fact that we're going a direction or not, right? You're going somewhere. Now, are you going where you actually want to be? That's the question, mm-hmm. right? And so one of the things that you really dove into was insecurities in the message. This is what I thought was kind of cool. And I know you're going to talk about it a little bit more, but even when we, kind of did a little debrief with one of the pastors and his wife afterwards, and they talked about specifically the insecurities that you brought up. And I never really considered how much of an impact something like that would be even in DC, which is a completely different kind of environment that people are operating in all the time than in El Paso, Texas.
Absolutely.
And the things that people are contending with. And so I thought, wow, how does God just move?
Or even like some of the things you talk about. Because
yes, it's true. Brad had to clarify. I'm from Texas.
I was in the middle of my one of my parts, and I'm like going, and my analogy that I love to use it, and it makes it very clear. I should make analogies per region.
Yeah, you probably should.
But I talked about shooting a gun, and then I stopped and I'm like, listen, I'm from Texas. I don't know how it is here in DC, but We like our guns. And so then I just kept going. I don't even know if I got a laugh out of that.
Yeah, I laughed. No, but I think, one thing, we went to this coffee shop the day before we spoke, and you and I just kind of started to talk about insecurities.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that was a great day because we got, flights delayed. We get in late the night before. And my parents and my brother and his fiance went out to DC also. So we, hung out with them. And then the next day we were like, hey, you guys go. We're
in preparation.
Go hit all the sites, go do all the things, like whatever. But we're just going to be, we're going to go into like a solitude, right? We're just going to be by ourselves figuring this out until, not figuring out, but just continuing. Processing preparation. So yeah, we ended up at a coffee shop.
Yeah. And I think, it was like a heavy conversation that we had, but it was so good because, we have mentioned, the insecurities. And I think the reality is that everybody carries insecurities.
That's 100% true. There's nobody, I've said this on this platform before too. There's nobody that doesn't have an insecurity.
Yeah. And I think the enemy plays on those things for sure, but how we've operated in life and our own belief system, what's happened to us, like it reinforces, what it is that we feel insecure about, or we try to compensate for insecurities. And so we behave in ways that, end up kind of putting our insecurities, I think, a little bit on display in some ways, but also just trying always to make up for this insecurity.
I think what you just said, compensate for insecurity, I've never known how to put this when I've given my testimony. And how many times have I given my testimony, right? But I always say that insecurities played a role, but then when I talk about it, I never really can explain how the insecurities played a role because they were everything I did was opposite of my insecurities.
Right.
And I've never been able to figure that out until right now when you said that. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, Brad.
Well, because that's exactly what it was.
Because
I was compensating for my insecurities, and it on the surface you might think, well, that's a good thing because that, I was combating my insecurities kind of, right? Like I was going against them, but it wasn't a good thing at all.
Yeah, because it's like you're not dealing with the insecurity. You're just compensating for it. So it's like, oh, okay, this insecurity over here, it comes out as pride, right? Because I'm compensating, I'm overcompensating. And I think it's important that we all recognize that we do this. Like in some area of our life where we have been wounded or we feel less than or weak. Like for me, one of my insecurities is like, I do not like to feel stupid.
Yeah.
I do not like to feel stupid. And I would say mine plays out more in just this way of not even going, like instead of compensating for it, I won't even dive into something that I feel like I will be stupid in. And so it's kind of like a different, yes.
It just makes me laugh. I mean, I'm not laughing at you.
Your insecurities make me chuckle.
It just makes me laugh. I don't know why. Well, because I'm just thinking no one likes to feel stupid, but I know you and I know exactly what that is.
Right.
Because you'll even get snappy.
Oh, thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
Let's just lay it all out there.
You'll get snappy if I'm trying to teach you something or we're trying to do something and you feel stupid and you'll be you just get snappy. Yeah.
Okay, then you're welcome. Now you know how we handle things. But I recognize that in myself and I do try to even realize the root of the issue. And I think that that's an important thing that we realize, that these things that really cause us to react in a certain way when we're feeling like we have to compensate in some level, to see the insecurity behind it. I think that's such a powerful thing if we can dive into it. But in that, we're in that coffee shop and having a conversation, and you're kind of talking about this, the insecurity. Yeah. You're talking about what you were going to, go over that night. And, I think something that we don't realize, and you just mentioned it too, right? Like there is a reaction from the people around us when it comes to, or I would say a consequence for the people around us when we are sitting in our insecurities. And that's something I don't think that we consider very often, because in our insecurity, we are focused on self, and we don't think of the weight that it puts on the people that are closest to us.
Yeah, because they're trying to help you. So they're like walking around on eggshells, trying to help pick up the weight, trying to help you feel better. It's exhausting.
In a way, we're also compensating for someone else's insecurity.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's exhausting. I'm saying that I don't deal with your insecurity a lot.
Well, like, I mean, my little snappiness, you do.
Yeah, but you don't like, sometimes you're just snappy.
Okay.
It's okay. It's not an insecurity thing. So it's fine.
Sometimes you're just that way. The word is okay.
It's not insecurities. You're fine.
You just had a bad day and you're a little snappy.
But so that's what I'm saying. Like, there's not a lot of times that you are thinking you're going to feel stupid.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's not, that's what I'm getting at. Like, I say it's exhausting, but it's not because I'm dealing with your thing all the time or anything like that. But when you're around people that are insecure and you're trying to make it better, like the temperature in the room, you're trying to make it better. You're trying to make, everything around you better. It's exhausting for that person.
Yeah, very much so.
Now, before you ask me any questions, because I know that's what it's leading to. My question to you is, do you feel like it's exhausting to you when I'm trying to fight through my insecurities, right? But I want to know why it feels exhausting to you, in the sense of like, I don't feel like you need to control the temperature in the room. I don't like, because I shrink away. I get quiet and I shrink away. So that's why I'm asking you.
I don't know why this is going to make me cry that you asked that question. Yeah, it's really hard. You think when you're in that headspace, it's only impacting you. And like I mentioned in the coffee shop, it's a weight that I carry too, but I can't get rid of it. Like, I don't know how to make it better. So when you're battling insecurities, I just feel that I share the load that's in your brain, but I am unable to shift it. It does not matter if I tell you 20 things that would try to counteract the inner narrative that I know you're battling. Or I just try to speak life over you or truth over you. That inner narrative is so strong, even if it's a lie, right? Even if it is not who you are, that inner narrative is a powerful thing. And when your inner narrative is negative, that weight is palpable. You think you're shrinking inward, but when you see someone shrinking inward or withdrawn, or I actually see it on you. I can physically see on your demeanor and your posture and your face when you are battling insecurities. And so it's like, I think you think you're hiding it because like, I'm just going to stay quiet about it, or you don't want to burden me, right? So you're not going to say to me, like, I feel this way, because you know that it's hard, but it doesn't matter if you say it, I see it. And so I think that inability to make that better for a spouse specifically is very heavy, because I can't be in your head, right?
Yeah.
I can't replace that inner narrative. And so it is kind of this like solo battle that you have to fight. But the reality is that I think specifically in a relationship, those insecurities end up being a battle that both of you fight.
Yeah. I mean, everything has a cost.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I didn't think I was going to make you cry either.
It is very heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were sitting in that coffee shop talking about all this, and yeah, it's, I mean, that's basic. You did tell me that you feel the weight, you know, when we're in the coffee shop talking about it. And, yeah, I mean, I try to do everything I can do to not have insecurities. Ultimately, what I have to do is just continue to seek God in that realm, right? In that area of my life. And one huge thing that hit me when I was getting ready for the getting ready for the events and prepping and, you know, writing was, you know, I was writing on intimacy.
Yeah.
That was my path that I was writing on. And it turned into insecurities because of everything we just said, right? I think the biggest killer of intimacy is insecurity.
Yeah.
It's not, there's nothing else. I don't think so. I think it's insecurity because it's kind of like when I talk about how pride is in everything that you end up sinning. It's pride that's like the underlying thing. I know there's like these 7 deadly, you know, all those things, right? But I feel like the underlying issue with all sins is pride, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it is with insecurities or with intimacy, killing intimacy. I think the underlying issue with all of it is some type of insecurity, whether it's something you deal with daily or it's just something that's coming up, you know, whatever it is, you know, that I think that's where it comes from. But that was where I was going with that. And then I get into insecurities and I start writing about that, but I'm writing like surface level, you know, just like we all deal with insecurities. You know, men, you deal with insecurities too. Like, you know, just kind of like, this is what happens in marriage, blah, blah, blah. And then I was practicing one day and I had a writer's block, a big one. I don't feel like I'm a writer, right? I mean, we write our messages, but I don't feel like I'm a writer, you know, or author, whatever you want to say. And I remember talking to our pastor at a church, JT, off to the side one day, and I was like, he's asking me how it's going, you know, because it was a big deal for us, right? Like it was awesome. It was an amazing opportunity, phenomenal time, all that. And he's like, how are you doing? And I'm like, man, I want to say I'm doing great, but I'm like frozen. And he's like, writer's block. And I was like, I guess, like, yeah, you know, I never had thought about it like that. I was just like, I'm frozen. I don't know what to say. And, so anyway, I was doing this, going over it. And then that's when I just started like, no, I'm going to talk about all of my insecurities, you know, and just go over them. And what I found out while I was doing that is that it just shifts our focus. Insecurity shifts your focus from God to yourself. Yeah. That's all it does. If you can keep your focus on God, and this lies true with everything in your life, right? Like there's so many things that want to grab our attention to take our focus away from Christ. Now, life is life, right? Like I jokingly say, like I can't be a monk walking around, you know, El Paso, right? Like I have a career, I have a family, I have kids, you know, these are things that I get to do in my life. I'm a leader in these areas. I have, you know, friends, all this stuff. So life's life. Like that's not what I'm talking about focusing, right? Because I focus on my work. I focus on you. I focus, you know, but my overall focus is on Christ. During those times where I'm focused on career, ministry, you guys, whatever it is, my focus is still Christ because he's put me in these positions and called me to do this. But it's when my focus shifts from that. And that's what I'm saying. There's things that want to grab your attention to get you off track. So even when I said that originally, that my focus shifts from God to myself, I just took it for that, as far as like, this is my solo battle, right? That I have to deal with. And I know it bleeds, but this is my solo battle I have to deal with. And it keeps taking my focus off Christ. I got to get back on him. And then as we were talking through it, realizing, just like what you just shared, is when my focus comes off Christ, it affects everybody that's in my atmosphere, right? Like everyone that's around me, it hurts them in a way that some more, right? Like closer to me, it's going to hurt them more. Where friends, it's not necessarily hurting them, but what's the opportunity cost of me not focused on Christ when I'm around my friends? Right. Instead, I'm focused on myself, and now I'm with my friends. Like, what are the things that could have happened, God could have done, Right. And that's one of the things that really hit me during that.
Yeah, I think that's so true. That the moment we are soaking in insecurity, and that has an impact on everybody around us, even when we don't really realize it.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful thing, I think, to say it out loud and to see it clearly. But yeah, I did want to ask you some questions, because I mean, we've talked about insecurities and stuff too, but I don't think we've ever talked about the weight that it really puts on other people. But specifically, you talked about a couple of insecurities that you had. I don't know if you want to share that I know you mentioned a few before, but
I'll share whatever, that.
Go for it. Yeah. Right now you get to share it.
Okay. So there's no in particular order.
Yeah.
And I think that these two bleed together, and I know that, but I feel that they're different in that sense. But one of my insecurities is I don't feel smart enough to be in that room, or smart enough. Mm-hmm. You could really just end it there.
Yeah.
There's times I don't feel smart enough. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with like academically. Like, I know I'm not a rocket scientist. Like, I know I'm not those things, but there's times where I'm around people, or, I've been part of boards. I'm on a board. I'm, at work, I'm around, been in strategic planning, been in, high level operational plan, all these things I've been a part of and continue to be a part of, even budget stuff. And then, being in those situations, being asked to lead operations, being asked to do whatever, but being given these responsibilities, and we're sitting around the table and we're talking and, problem solving and whatever. And during that time, there's times where I'm looking around the room and I'm like, what am I even doing here?
Yeah.
Like, I think about that, and I go back to, I'm going to keep dropping JT's name, but I go back to when we first started going to church, and we introduced ourselves to him and his wife, and then I think just maybe was it later that year that he called me and he was like, hey, I want to meet you for coffee, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, let's do it. Like, let me know when, and I'll be there. And so he set up a time, and I'm like, what do you want to meet about? Just like,
am I in trouble?
Yeah. Like principal's office, right? What do you want to meet about? And he's like, I wanted to talk to you about leadership. And I'm sure you remember this, because I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, yeah, man, set it up. Let's go. Like, leadership 101 coming your way. Like,
let me pull out my outline.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember talking about it. I'm like, what am I? Like, who am I to talk about leadership? Like, again, right? I don't belong. I'm not smart. That's my other one. right? Like I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough.
Yeah.
I'm all these things. Like
It's like that less than failure narrative.
Like what is, who am I to go in there and talk about leadership, and I remember like talking to you about it. And I'm legitimately sitting there like, randomly writing a note on my phone. Like, I don't even know what to talk about. Like, I'm sitting there like, man, I need some like good, I need to drop some like good knowledge. Like,
JT always got those one-liners.
Oh yeah. That dude is a verbal ninja. And I'm like, I gotta drop knowledge. Like this is awesome that he wants this, but I have no idea. Like, why is he calling me? And I went and I'm sitting at that table, and even while he's talking, I'm like, I'm trying to soak it in, but at the same time, I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, again, who am I? Right. Yeah. And that's what I feel like. I'm sitting around, a board meeting. I'm sitting around a table at, work. I'm sitting in a skiff, whatever it may be. And at first I'm good. And then all of a sudden I start looking around the table, and I'm looking around. I'm like, this guy right here, successful businessman multiple times over again, has people waiting in line for him to coach, like CEOs and across the nation, all these things. Like, he's sitting right there. And I got a guy across me, entrepreneur, successful business, all these things. This guy's, did accounting for years, all
measuring all the successes.
Yeah. And then like this guy's like top of his field. And when he drops like some, mental, like psychological, physical stuff, guidance on you, you're like listening, because you're like, man, this dude knows everything he's talking about. And then and then I get to me, and well, what am I at this table for? Like and I'm not trying to like degrade myself, and I'm not looking for accolades either, but I just sit there and I'm like, man, I'm bare bones. What I do for a living, all my experiences and everything I have, like I am a door kicker, right? Like that's what I think of.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I think that's what's interesting about insecurities, right? Is that it does shut you down or demean you. Like, and for you, like shuts down your voice in those places. Right. But what's interesting to me about it, I've talked to you about this before, is the things that you're insecure about, nobody looking at you or who knows you would ever think or say those things about you. No. It's literally the opposite of what other people see. And I think that's what's so interesting about like insecurities in general, is that we sit in places that they're not real. They're not, that is an unrealistic view of who you are. And anyone else, and it's just kind of like what sin does too, right? There's so many times where we see someone in sin and you look at it and go, why are you doing that? Like, you are giving up or walking away from the best things in your life. And yet that person who's in that place they're so clouded by that deception that they can't see what other people see.
Yeah. I mean, I had a guy, we just finished our selection course, and we had our select, non-select board, and then we meet and we tell them if they've been selected to move on or not. Right. And I'm sitting, at this table with 3 other dudes with me, and this kid comes in. He's a little bit older, but he comes in. And,
to you, he's a kid.
I know, man. I'm getting old. So he comes in, he's sitting across from us. He was one of the older guys there, though. And we're, before we tell him that he's been selected, we're asking him like all these questions, just to see, just to get where his mind is. And he's answering, and then he's like, I don't have, because one of the guys with me was like, hey, what's your background with, and he's like, I don't have any military experience. And he's like, I got in this field, just a couple of years ago. Before that, I worked in the oil fields, and he could see as he's talking, like, at least my observation, probably because I'm so focused on, not, I don't want to say so focused on insecurities, but we just came off. We just came off of speaking about this and talking. And so then I'm sitting in this room and I'm watching him, and I stopped him when he's done. I was like, hey, after he told him he was selected and getting ready to walk him out the door, and I was like, hey man, I'm like, don't count yourself short because you don't have any of the experience you think you need to have to be in this position.
Yeah.
All your experience counts, right? Like, you don't count yourself short.
Right.
Like you've made it this far, and we're gonna train you on how you need to be, but all those experiences count. Like, just because you were a roughneck in the oil fields, like, doesn't, and like, you're here now. It taught
you things. Like, you have enough mental grit to be here. That's what
I was getting at. Like, you can't negate all those things. I can give that advice all day to everybody.
Yeah.
And I could see it all day to everyone. It's when it hits me, right? And so, I'm sitting in these rooms, sitting across from JT in a meeting, sitting, at work and all those things. And I mean, the meeting with, my first coffee with JT went great. And, he's asking me questions. I actually had answers, but the whole time I'm like,
degrading yourself.
I'm not, like, like, again, who am I kind of deal, right? And when I was preparing for this message and talking about it and like, how do you combat this and use scripture? Ephesians is, God says we're his masterpiece. Like, these things, I know them, and I have to not constantly, this isn't a daily thing, but I have to like fight them when they come up. But one thing that hit me when I was praying for this and shift, getting this, like, I need to shift my focus back to God and not on myself, and I need to do these things, and is that really, it's such a selfish and arrogant way to look at everything. It really is. Like, one, I keep saying, who am I? Well, who am I to question how God made me, right? Now, we live in sin, right? So, like,
we want to conform to him, obviously.
But who am I to question how he made me, And then as I'm going over that, it's like, I keep thinking like, well, that guy at work, he invited me, into this meeting, right? Or he gave me, my boss gave me this responsibility to run this in this meeting. JT invited me to sit across from him one December and talk about leadership. Like, he invited me to this, he invited me to that. It's like over and over and over again. And I feel like there's this facade that I have up that people aren't seeing through. And so I'm just getting these opportunities when in reality, I'm like, I am not good enough to be in this room. I'm not smart enough to be in this room. I'm going to fake it, and I just start becoming quiet because I don't feel like I can have input. I don't feel it's like sometimes on the podcast when you say something and I answer back, I'm like, well, I don't even know if this is a good answer. This is all I got, so I'm going through this, and then God does what God does, and he just like hits me with this, almost like this slap where it's like, it's this, like father, but getting mad, getting on to his son. And it's like, how dare you think that man put you in that room? And I mean, I look back on all my experiences and all my opportunities I've had. I mean, from high school through college, through everything. And it's like, no man put me on those paths, Now, when I went on my own path,
yes,
but God placed me in those rooms, right? God placed me on that operation. He placed me that one December meeting with JT. Like, he placed me in those things. And some I've seen impact, some I haven't. But I'm not worried about that. I'm understanding, and I have to continue to understand that yes, physically this guy like I'm in this room because of somebody,
Yeah.
right? But in reality, I'm in that room because God's given me opportunity to be in that room.
Yeah.
And I can represent him in everything I do and show that. Now, I go back to that meeting, in that December meeting of a couple of years ago, because I didn't realize until later the impact that meeting had. Not necessarily like, I mean, I still have a hard time talking about that because I don't feel like I gave these super enlightening, like, all right, we're going to change the trajectory of what you're talking about by what I'm about to tell you,
right.
You know, because there's some people like you talk to them and you know they're about to drop some knowledge and you're like, man, this could change. This is a fork in the road for me right now. Like I need to soak this in. I don't feel like I'm that person. And the staff at the church that time was going to be 6 people, you know. And I remember we talked about leadership. I talked about a lot of my experiences. And I remember just seeing like, this is going to be tough. Like 6 people, this is going to be tough, right? Like I remember seeing that and feeling that like this year, I mean, God focused, right? But this year, this is going to be rough, you know? And I remember sitting there and going like, man, my perspective is totally different. You give me or put me on a 6-man fire team and with precision focus, everyone in step, like, you know, brothers, right? The amount of damage you can inflict on something with just that is people don't understand. Yeah. They're not in that world. They don't understand that. Like you have 6 people, linked arms, same mission, same focus, same vision, trained up, like ready to rock. And it's a force that people don't realize when they're not in that realm. Yeah. And I was telling him that, you know, I'm like, you have 6 people, but what you have is this unified vision, linked arms, everyone in step, everyone wanting the same thing. Like you have a mission. Like, do you know what you can do with 6 people? Instead of, I don't know what I can do with 6 people, you know, like how are we going to even do this? Yeah. Where you look at it a lot differently. So in that meeting, I can trace it back to like seeing an outcome that was positive.
Well, I mean, I think it's so interesting to me always that you go into any position that you're placed in thinking I have nothing to contribute, you know, because and even every time we prepare a message, I've seen you wrestle with this
every time,
every single time, just, you know, and it's not that there isn't a wrestling out or that we shouldn't have a humble approach to anything that we do, because we should, right? But yours is different, right? It's almost this self-degradation that's going on as you are preparing. And there has never been a time I have seen you at a mic or on a stage or in a room where I do not stand back and go, wow, that man is anointed by God. Ever. I sometimes you get into my head about what it is that you're experiencing. Like I remember even when we went to youth camp, you had a message that you were just like, I got nothing. Like you just told me, like, I've got nothing. That's what I felt, you know? Like. And I'm just sitting there going like, well, man, I really hope this lands. Cause like, he's just really telling me like, I don't know what I'm going to say. Like I keep sitting down. I can't come up with something. And I watched you that night and I'm looking at these young people, which by the way, I'd say young people in some ways are the hardest audience because their attention span is short. Yeah. However, they are the most gracious audience at the same time, which is beautiful. But they were before the throne room of God in that message, you know, and we even heard like later on about the salvation that happened because of that, which is unbelievable, right? Like that's that's the anointing that I see on you. When you're on a stage, it commands attention. And it's not, and it's, it, to me, I think what I get a unique perspective because I get to see the back part of that story, right? The gradually then suddenly part of those stories is that you're sitting there and wrestling out. I mean, really, in a very tangible sense, your insecurities before getting on a stage. And then I get to see God just like, because I know in your mind, you've got nothing. And I just get to see God just like show up in this radical way. But also I think probably every time before you speak, I tell you, like, you are anointed by God. You are anointed by God. Because I believe it. Yeah. Like unequivocally, I know that you are anointed by God. Like that he's given you this. God told me years ago when in some of the worst times in my life that it was going to be you. Like it wasn't going to be me. Even though I was mad at God because he was still letting me go through some painful things. And he told me, you have no idea what I'm going to do with him. And I was like, well, worried about myself, my own ministry, my own capacity for working with women and brokenness. And so to me, it's like this testimony of things that only God can do. So it is heartbreaking that I think you wrestle through it, but I also get to see in the wrestling, and I think that God is beginning to use you in new ways to speak out about what that insecurity looks like and the consequences of it, but also learning the tools to combat it. Because I do think, it is that 2 Corinthians 10:3-5, taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ, over and over and over again, right? Like you said it's not daily. And I think what you meant by that, it's not a daily thing you're always fighting. No. Like you're not always feeling that. Like I can tell when you are. Yeah. But I think that is a thought that at some point in your head every day.
Absolutely. No, it is. Yep.
And I think I would push back on that and saying like, I think that you're taking every thought captive or your firm identity in Christ, right? To say like, I'm a new creation. I'm chosen. I am this, I am that. Like, those are the things that we need to combat like 3 times more than that one time where you're in it. And I think that's the key that has to be there is like, no, I'm going to say this truth has to be louder than the lie.
No, I agree. I think just talking about all this too, one of the hardest things to deal with insecurities, I feel, is not pushing those onto your kids, right? Like I've never talked to my boys about my insecurities, but also I've caught myself because I've been worried about them through my own insecurities. And so I've intentionally, even with fears, right? Like I've intentionally I've intentionally done things to not have them have the same problem, if that makes sense. Like I don't want them to. Yeah,
like you're being scared of heights. Yeah, you've tried not to make. I mean, I know that's not an insecurity, but you're trying to not allow that to influence them walking to the edge and looking over.
Yeah, absolutely. And so even like one of my other insecurities I deal with, and it just popped in my head because making sure that my kids don't have the same insecurities. I have body image issues, right? However, I don't know the proper name for it. It doesn't matter. Body dysphoria maybe or something like that. Anyway, I have body image issues. Like I've dealt with them. I mean, gosh,
your whole life.
Yeah, my whole life. And I remember, I really, really never wanted to put my kids in that situation where they've had to deal with this. So I've intentionally made that a thing, right? Yeah. Like, nope, my kids will not deal with any of my insecurities, but this too, right? My kids are not going to deal with this. And I remember one day, because you don't track that, right? Like, how do you test that they don't have that insecurity? But I mean, you could talk to them, but you know what I mean? Like,
that inner narrative, you don't know.
How do I know that they don't have the same insecurity I have? How do I know that I haven't like pawned this off onto them? And one day I laughed so hard later, but I was like, my two boys are in the living room doing boy things. I don't know, right? They're just like, either picking on each other, laughing with each other, whatever, right? But I remember one of them going like, no, I weigh more than you do. And then the other one's like, no, you don't. I weigh more than you do. And they were like, no, I'm going to go get the scale right now. Like, I know I weigh more than you. And like, it was this whole thing.
Dumb.
Yeah. Like, well, yeah, first of all, it was a dumb competition.
No woman is going to have that competition
not at
ever.
All. But at the same time, I was just laughing because I was like, these boys are like, no, I'm not some little lightweight dude. Like, I weigh more than you do, and they're fighting about how much they weigh because they want to weigh more than each other, and I just thought it was just a cool boy thing because I had never been like that.
Yeah.
Ever, but yeah, those insecurities, if you let them, they'll rule and ruin your life.
Yeah.
They will do both. And you'll go through life not happy. You'll go through life with no contentment, right? And I'm not talking about like, yes, there's things you should be content with. Absolutely. This is something I even talked about with my insecurities, where people would look at it and go like, well, yeah, but if you change your perspective, then those insecurities should be something that pushes you to success or pushes you to what to get rid of it. But the problem with that is the goalpost always moves when you do that.
Yeah. Always.
It's never going to be good enough. I mean, you can see it. You see people that are just driven by, like, you think, if I have, $1 million, I'll be set. Get to, nope. Now I need 3 million. Nope. You just see this, it cannot be stopped. Right. Yeah. And with the same with all of it, right? Like even body image, like if I get to this point, I'll be good. You get to that point. If I get to, you see people now and they look fake. I'm sorry, but they look like a cartoon character because that not everyone, but they've seen like, no, this is the thing. So I need to go do this. And then when it's all said and done, they don't even look human anymore, because they have a horrible distortion of how they look and they need to get, so there's no end state to that. And so you have to crush your insecurities and the gradually and then suddenly. And I love what this book's been saying, and it's not to minimize the book, but it's talking about like steps, right? Like, we take these steps, small steps in a direction, get you somewhere. And, crushing your insecurities, I hope one day that I don't have them, right? I don't know if that will ever be something I never deal with. Like I don't have them anymore, but I know that they used to be a lot bigger in my life.
Yeah.
And so
they used to dictate a lot more of your actions.
Yeah. And so now maybe on the outside, you're seeing the suddenly of like, man, he's walking different. He's acting different. He's doing these things, but on the backside, it has been a gradual thing for years, and just like in your marriage, the things you deal with and everything you go through, like when we talk to couples and coach couples and go speak at events and pray with couples afterward, they're seeing the product now.
They're seeing the suddenly.
But they're not seeing from 2011 on.
Yeah.
Right. They're not seeing all the crying, all the missteps, all the heartbreak, all the, running God and why are we doing this? And they didn't see all those things, which is fine. They don't need to see all those things. But I need everyone to realize that anything you're combating in your life, insecurities, trust issues, betrayals, like all those things that you're combating in your life, parenting, whatever it may be, that you just have to take those steps in the right direction to get where you want to go. And it's not going to be an overnight thing. Is God big enough to make something overnight? Absolutely. But I feel like, now that I'm talking about it, I feel like a lot of things aren't overnight because it's part of what God wants you to go through.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think even when you said that God does things overnight, I also think the reality is there might be that distinct moment that's overnight, right? Like you had your road to Damascus experience that happened in a moment, right?
That was only because,
but it was all of these steps, both in the wrong direction and in the right direction, right? But all of these people that were praying, all of the preparation, all of the background that you had raised as a believer, right? Like all of those steps that you had taken towards God before that moment, right, allowed you to boom, hear God and know that this is him and I'm going to go that direction. Like I'm not going to walk away from him. It's like there was still a level of steps that prepared you for that moment. You still had to make that decision. But it's like, the reality is so many times when even in this suddenly there was this preparation process beforehand. Like I think of even maybe because Christmas is on my mind, but you think of Mary, right? Who is all of a sudden one day an angel shows up, right? But she was faithful to God before that. Like God saw, like you're blessed among women, he saw her faithful steps in the right direction. And that suddenly moment,
I don't think
was gradually got her there,
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I don't, there's no suddenly, in the sense of like, I just woke up one day and this is where I got. Yeah. Like there's no, in good and or bad.
Exactly. Like, that's what I was going to say.
Suddenly, I think that's what this book captures. I think that's what life captures. But what I was getting at is like, how long did it take Noah to build the ark? Right.
Yeah, so long.
I was reading that he had to, like, he planted trees too. Like that, like he had to get like all that preparation in order for him to build the ark. Right. Like there's no just God calls you to something, calls you to your marriage, calls you to whatever it is God's put you in. Like to me, I think the gift, even though we want it to be like, I mean, for our ministry, I'd love to wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden it's like, millions of people are, all these things are happening, and that would be phenomenal, right? If we started it and then the next day it's like, boom. Hey, wow, this is, this is crazy. Thank you. Thank God for what he's done. But I think that it misses out on so much that he wants to do in your life.
It's true.
When that happens, where it's like, man, the years of, and I mean, there's countless stories of quote unquote sudden success, but then you go back and it's like, no, it wasn't sudden success. I've been doing this since, that new artist that all of a sudden like is singing on your favorite, radio station, whatever it is. Like you found him, you're streaming and he's huge. She's huge. It's like, man, this dude was an overnight success. And it's like, no he wasn't. It was absolutely not an overnight success.
Years of practicing and years of time.
There was years
of
4 people sitting there listening to him, right? There was years of not being able to do something, like, because he was denied, right? There was years of all those things to get to where he's going. And so I think, the more I think about it, all these things, like even the insecurities, I wish God would take them away from me right now.
Yeah.
But where I need to be faithful in it and move forward in it, there is this beautiful journey that happens before he takes something away.
Yeah. And I think that is so true. And I have gotten also to see a front row seat to you solidifying your identity in Christ, above all else and striving towards that. I think, and even being able to put a name to some of the things, like all of these things that we have to walk out, but what you're getting a chance to see is the faithfulness of God in that, right? Is over and over and over again, continuing to place you in positions you do not feel worthy to be in. And then you getting a chance to see that is God, you know, and that his placement of me, and it begins to combat. And yeah, I agree. The process that God takes us through of refinement, you know, of seeing the lie for what it is, of solidifying who we are in him, recognizing that, you know, his divine authorship over our life, you know, it's like, yeah, it is a beautiful thing, as hard as it is.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Well, I think for a challenge for the week, I think it is recognize, like name, like really look at, okay, do I have an insecurity that is a weight on me and a weight on those around me? Like, what is it that you are carrying that is really a lie? You know, it's a lie from the enemy that you have like embedded as who you are, and then to find a truth to begin to combat that with, and that it be this thing, like I'm going to 3 times a day, I am going to affirm God's truth over my life, over that insecurity, over that thing. I think that would be my challenge for the week.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to you next week.